What would you say if I told you that this brownie could improve digestion and support brain health without sacrificing on flavor? Now you'd probably say I'm crazy, but once you realize the ingredients, and more importantly the not ingredients, it makes complete sense. This recipe is packed with fiber and protein, as well as other nutrients like manganese, magnesium, copper, and iron. This recipe is also completely plant-based, gluten-free, and refined sugar-free. So let's get right into the recipe. Starting with our ingredients, we're going to be using 2 super ripe bananas. Now I cannot emphasize this more, this is definitely the key ingredient to making these brownies so amazing. Not only does the banana replace any kind of vegan egg replacements because of the soft texture, but there's no need for any dairy-free milks since the bananas are super soft. Plus, it adds extra sweetness because they've been super ripe for a while. Now for the rest of the ingredients, I have 115 grams of oat flour, 24 grams of cacao powder, about 2 tablespoons of a strong coffee. I'm using date seed coffee, but you can also use regular espresso. Here I have 3 medjool dates, and we're gonna be soaking these in hot water and mashing them, which is gonna be part of the sweetener. I also have 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, about a 1/4 cup of almond butter, a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, about 50 grams of walnuts. I've also made this with pecans, and those work great as well, just whichever one you have on hand. And lastly, some cinnamon. I just like to add a shake, not a lot so you can taste it, but just a tad. And that's gonna be all for our ingredients. We're going to start by preparing our wet ingredients. I'm just going to take 1 banana and I'm going to mash this on my plate. I find it easier to mash on a plate compared to a bowl because it's a flat surface. I like to take the bananas one at a time, just so it doesn't take up so much space. And then you can just break this apart into a few smaller pieces. And then in with our fork, we're just going to mash this. Once the first banana is almost completely mashed, I'm going to take the second banana and just add this one on top. Many people think they should be eating bananas because they're a good source of potassium, which they are. But actually, bananas are an even better source of vitamin B6, manganese, copper, and vitamin C. These nutrients all have something in common. They all play a crucial role in supporting your immune system. For example, vitamin B6 helps your body create antibodies, which are needed to fight off infections and diseases. Now that both of our bananas are completely mashed, we're going to add these into a large bowl. Now I'm adding in a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, along with 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 2 tablespoons of a strong coffee. As I said earlier, I'm using coffee made from date seeds. And lastly, for now, a 1/4 cup of almond butter. Now we're just going to mix this in well. Also, one pro tip, I think it's super important to be using a really runny almond butter. I've sometimes made this recipe and even other recipes with a jar of almond butter that was kind of thick, using the bottom part that settled, and it was almost impossible to mix. So definitely use a runnier butter, whichever one you're using. And now we're going to set this aside. Now for our dry ingredients, to 115 grams of oat flour, I'm going to be adding a 1/4 cup or 24 grams of cacao powder. Then I'm adding just a sprinkle of cinnamon, let's say like 2 shakes, a good pinch of salt, about 1/2 teaspoon, And lastly, for the dry ingredients, 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And using a whisk, we're going to combine all of the ingredients. And we're going to set this aside. So I've just boiled some water and I'm going to pour this over the 3 dates. This is going to help them soften up because we're going to let it sit for at least 10 minutes. In the meantime, we're going to chop up our 50 grams of walnuts from earlier. But first, walnuts are an excellent source of healthy fats, especially omega-3 fatty acids, which are super important for overall heart health and brain health. You can leave larger chunks if you like, but honestly, I am making this for smaller kids and family members, and kids don't really want chunks of walnuts in their brownies. So these are going to be very small so you can taste them, but they don't leave a crazy crunch. If you're enjoying this recipe, then make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can get notified anytime I post a new video. Now let's get back to the recipe. Once your walnuts are super small like this, they are done. While I'm waiting on the dates, I'm going to be making a quick caramel sauce. I like drizzling this on top of the brownies, but this part is completely optional. I'm going to add first about 1/4 cup of almond butter to a little pot because this is going to be going on the stove. I'm also going to be adding 1/4 cup of coconut milk. Then I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and lastly, a good pinch of sea salt. The rest is super simple. I just cook this on the stove over medium heat until the milk starts to bubble. Then I stir it really well, add in just a sprinkle of cornstarch, mix that in, and then set it aside to cool, and that's literally it. So I've just drained the water out of the dates, and I've just peeled off any of the skin that was coming off. Now using a fork, you're just going to mash this into a paste. Once your dates are completely mashed, we're going to add these in to the rest of the wet ingredients. I've also preheated my oven to 350. And using our whisk from earlier, we're going to mix this, making sure there's no chunks of dates left inside. Once that's mixed in well, we're going to add our dry ingredients. And mix this in well. And lastly, our chopped walnuts. And mix these in well. And once the batter is ready, we're going to transfer this into a loaf pan. I'm just drizzling mine with a tad of olive oil, and we're going to spread that around. And now we're just going to pour in all of our batter. And now we're going to pop this in the oven to bake for half an hour. This brownie makes 8 slices, each one totaling 230 calories, 5.5 grams of fiber, 5 grams of protein, and 13 grams of natural sugars found in the dates, maple syrup, and bananas, as well as almost 40% of your daily value of manganese, 18% daily value of copper, 8% daily value of iron, and 7% daily value of magnesium. Once the brownie has finished, we're going to let this cool for 10 minutes. At that point, you can add on any toppings you like, I'll be adding my caramel sauce as well as some chopped nuts and chocolate chips. Thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and comment down below if you'd give this recipe a go. See you next time on Simple Plant-Based Food.